Hello, and welcome to Homer for August 10th, 2025. Today, we'll be reading from lines 666 to 680 in Book 11 of the Iliad. I hope you enjoy. Yet Achilles, valiant though he be, careth not for the Danaans. Neither hath he pity. Doth he wait until the swift ships hard by the sea, and despite of the Argives, shall blaze with consuming fire, and ourselves be slain, man after man? For my strength is not such as of old, it was in my supple limbs. Would that I were young and my strength were as when strife was set afoot between the Eleans and our folk about the lifting of kine, the taking of cattle. What time I slew Itomeneus, the valiant son of Hipparchus, a man that dwelt in Elis, when I was driving off what we had seized in reprisal. And he, while fighting for the kine, the cows, was smitten amid the foremost by a spear from my hand. And he fell, and the country folk about him fled in terror. And booty exceeding great did we drive together from out the plain, 50 herds of kine, as many flocks of sheep, as many droves of swine, as many roving herds of goats, and chestnut horses, and 150 all, mares, and many of them had foals that followed after them, at the teat, as the translation says. Amazing. Let's now read it in Greek. Emeneas okedeneas toia anki talasses. Argeion aeketi puros teioi oteron hai. Autoitek ten nom methapiskaro uagarameis. Estoie paroseskeneni gramptoisi melesin. Eth hosse boi mibie demoyem pedoseie. Hossopate helleoisi kaemi ne kosatuchte. Amphipoe lasie hotegok tanani tomoneia. Estuno perokiden hoseneli dinaie taske. Rusie lau nomenos oda muonon ne siboesin. Ebleten protoisine messa pokero sakonti. Gadepesen lauoi de peritrasonagroi otai. Lei didec pedius in elassa meneli thepolen. Pentekon taboon agelas tosa poe aoion. Tossa suon subosia, tosai polia plateaigon. Hippostec santa sekaton kai pentekonta. Passaste leias po lesi de polo jupeisan. Amazing. So I think that was actually 681. I hope that's I hope I said that at the start correctly. And I don't know if that bit about Achilles carrying is from the translate. Whatever. It's been a few days of traveling. But yeah, let's talk about why this is important. Let's talk about why Nestor's story is fundamental, right? So there's a lot of geography in the Iliad that maybe you and I are not privy to if we're not Greek, right? In that, like, when he mentions, where they were, right? So this is the fight against the Epeans or whatever, right? When he mentions where they were, like, there's a physical location to this. And actually, as we'll see in the coming days as we go through, like, the rest of Nestor's story, we realize that these physical locations actually really well line up with the geography of Greece, right? So this story is about how in the past, when Nestor was strong, right, he was, like, out on the hunt to get some cattle, right? And spoiler alert, like, it was against his father's will, right? And he arrives in this, like, part of the land, and, like, they take the cattle because of the fact that, like, these people weren't paying their debts or whatever, right? It's basically like, I'm out, I'm taking cattle, and, like, there's, like, movement around land, and this is a story I'm telling you, all right? Those are the important things. And the reason why these are important is because they really sync up with, like, Patroclus's role as Achilles' companion, right? So in a way, Nestor's defiance of his family in order to, like, go fight and, like, steal cattle and, like, get retribution for them, like, not paying their taxes is very similar, which is a very interesting reason, right? Oh, they're not paying their taxes, right? They're not paying their, their debts or whatever. The law is involved here, interestingly enough, right? That's very similar to, like, Patroclus needing to, like, repay, like, the sort of debt of, like, get in charge of like repaying the debt for like whatever it is. But like obviously the account is not square, because like here we have like a concrete, like they didn't pay their debts, we have to like go get them. I need to disobey my family because I need to go harvest cows from these people. Whereas in Achilles' sense, right, it's like, you know, like who is owed what, right? Like, is the law really on your side? We have a disagreement between chieftains here. What does this even mean? You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So, you know, you have Nestor relate this story, right? And now we're in a story within a story, right? So the poet is having Nestor relate like, oh, like when I was strong, this is what I did, right? And I think this is quite formative for our understanding of how the Iliad is constructed, because probably these stories are extracted from other like epic traditions, and probably these stories are like quite thorough. They're quite interesting, they're quite long-winded, they probably have like a whole tradition of vocabulary and geography that comes with them, because the fact that like they're from like different people in different places, right? These sort of things all add up to create this like little short passage that Nestor is using to communicate to Patroclus. Or rather, the poet is using to give to Nestor in order to communicate to Patroclus, right? It's like a very fascinating, like, you know, interspersal of transmission that, like, you know, it's difficult. It's really impossible for us to say outside of like really concrete, like, you know, evidence of like, oh, like, you know, there are some geographical things that don't line up. There are geographical things that do line up, that like, oh, this like actually happened. Like, did this actually happen? Did this cattle raid actually happen? Whereas this dispute between Nestor's population and the population that they're going to, like, is this actually a thing, right? But it's at least notable that, like, you know, it has survived in its instrumentality within the text itself. So as we go further in the relation of this story in tomorrow and further days, let's keep an eye on that as we think about the power of using a story to communicate little things to people. As Nestor is always both recollecting things, but he's also using it as like a teaching moment in some ways. And we should also think about what that teaching moment is. And we should also think about, and this is a question I ask myself all the time, is a story that you relate to somebody more powerful if it is grounded in reality, or is it more powerful if it's something you make up on the spot? Anyway, this all and more, and our story is powerful as opposed to not telling stories. We shall see. All this and more we shall focus on next time. I hope you have enjoyed Homer for today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care and have a great day.